All right, hello and welcome back to Iron and Tentacles, an actual play Achtung Cthulhu podcast. I'm so glad you're here, everyone. My name is Shelanskey, and I will be your general manager, dungeon manager, game manager, whatever manager you'd like me to be, or master, or whatever it is. I don't like master, so I'm going to go manager. I'm going to be your game manager. Joining me for this session is Louisa, back again.
Hello.
We've got Ben, once again.
Hello.
Kegan.
I'd like to speak to your manager.
Yes. Okay, 1 second. Yes, how can I help you? And Tim.
Hello. When are our quarterly reports due? Please let me know. I'll have it all printed up in Excel for you.
Yeah, they were due yesterday.
That's about right.
Yeah. So this is our returning cast. We got everybody but Evan returning for this one. I'm very excited about that. If this is the first episode you're listening to, great. You can start here if you'd like and move forward. But we also have like 5 before this where we did a quick trip to France module and had a fun time with that. But all our cast here are starting new characters this time around, and we've got some really exciting stuff for you. So, how do you guys feel about if those of you at home didn't hear, we did a episode of Talking Tentacles, which was the episode before this, kind of getting Tim and Ben and Kegan's feedback about our earlier session. But Louisa, you weren't there, unfortunately. But why don't you tell us how'd you feel about our earlier sessions and a quick trip to France?
Yeah, it's been really interesting listening back to it because there's a load of stuff that I completely forgot that we did, which is always the way. Yeah, but it was a really good introduction, and I really like it. Just getting hang of the mechanics, and even if it didn't end maybe the way we were planning on it ending, or maybe we were, I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I thought it was really good actually. But I really look forward to making my own character for the pre-gen characters. Maybe I don't know if you guys talked about, maybe there was some sort of, I say issues maybe the wrong word, but like maybe they didn't quite fit the scenario that we were playing, so you felt like you didn't get to use them to their full advantage. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having things of this character that I'll completely forget that I've got, and then I just will never use throughout the entire campaign.
That's always how it works, right? With any RPG, it's you build this amazing character, and then you're like, oh wait, I do have lay on hands. And it's just like,
oh, I could have saved his life. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've got Animate Corpse as a backup, so
See, my entire motivation in that last scenario was to make sure that I never had that regret. So I used Sven to his fullest capabilities at the end.
Exactly.
All
we
the
know.
pieces.
oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Ben. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to say, in the design process of this, I kind of tried just random rolls, because they do give you that option in the player handbook. So like, let's just roll some D20s and see where we end up. And I honestly got the exact same character that Sarah was. Like, I got the same kind of bushwhacking commando type. And I was like, well, I mean, it was very, very similar, just short the dog. But that was one of those options.
I feel that because I was looking at so my character in last time was very mechanic focused, and I was like, this is so cool, and I never once got to use it. I was like, we're gonna bring it back. We're circling back to this. We're gonna make it useful this time, and we're gonna do it again. And this time he's on a private, because that sucked.
You got to push that milk truck out of the way, I think. You understood where the brakes were.
Right, I sure did. That had nothing. Yeah.
I have to
should
say,
put it in neutral. Congrats.
I think
You could drive stick.
Yeah, I think Modiphius does a great job, and when we were looking at those characters, and I think Louisa, that's why I was kind of focused on your character with a lot of the story and like the fade outs, because I was just like, she don't really have much to do during this whole campaign. I was just like, yeah, all right, so I got to give her something to do to make sure I keep her involved, and Tim's character had the mechanic thing, and I knew the truck piece was coming up, and there's maybe some other machinery, maybe that bomb he could have tackled too with his mechanic stuff. And then Evan's character and Ben's character were very much our fighting force, and and then and Kegan's character was very much fighting as well, and more of the mystics. But yeah, your character fighting himself mostly. But yeah, Daphne really, the character Daphne really didn't have a role, as I saw, to play as much in that campaign. So
yeah, I mean, if only we'd come across a giant library, then she would have absolutely aced it.
Right.
We just
one
didn't
room
get the
away.
opportunity.
We were one room away.
Yeah, so yeah,
Crushed.
it was essentially, go to the library or pull the trigger on the entire party. So,
And I'll say, I greatly appreciate the way that you managed to blend her in, because there's nothing worse than being at a table where the one character just doesn't fit with the rest, and so they go hang out. Or your DM is very much going like, all right, we're going to do a segment on these guys. Everyone else take a 2-hour break.
Yeah.
Goes takes a
nap on the couch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's nice that you're able to blend that in.
Yeah, and for those of you at home thinking about GMing or DMing, whatever you want to call it, eventually, like, that's always the hardest thing, right? Is you want to make sure, even at home, not just for a podcast, but for a home game, that everyone's involved and that they feel like they participated. Because you're right, there's nothing worse than, I remember there was I think it was Pathfinder, and I was kind of a tank paladin on the front lines, and I got taken out during like one scenario, and that was it for the rest. Like, we were there for 6 more hours, and I was just like, okay, like, I guess I'm just gonna eat this pizza and like draw in my notepad, because I was just out, and so yeah, I really, I hope that comes across, and that's my goal moving forward. Is I want you all to be involved in the story in one way or another, and really participate, whether it's through the story and moving the story forward, or whether it's taking out bad guys. And I think I've tried not to look as close at your character sheets as I probably should as a GM, because I want to be surprised, and I want you to kind of figure your character out as we go. And I prefer not to, like, because one of the best things about Cthulhu games, and Louisa, you've played Call of Cthulhu, and I think some of you have played other horror games, but like, is the fact that no matter what you do, you're not fully prepared for what's about to happen. No matter how strong you are, like, something is going to get you. And I really like that about Cthulhu, and that kind of mystery of things. And so I don't want to even subconsciously like design something that I know a character can or can't handle. I'd prefer to like see what you guys come up with in the moment, and hopefully surprise me too, because as much as I'm the GM and kind of coordinating everything, I'm playing as well. And so, I got to leave some cool surprises for myself, because otherwise I lose interest, then this whole thing goes down.
So I'm really looking forward, and this is going to sound crazy, since these characters are not like, they're going to be our forever characters for these, at least the next couple of things, and they're pre-designed by us. When we take those wounds and then we heal, like, there's lasting scars, either physical or mental, and they're really interesting and have actual game impact on it. So
yeah, and we talked about this a little bit in the previous episode to this, the Talking Tentacles episode, is that we're going to do experience points this time, and when you do truly heroic things, you can get actual like awards and medals, and which give you XP and give you things as well. And we can also rank up, so I know Tim's character is a sergeant right now, but during this campaign, after like a debriefing or something, he could rank up, and that helps grow your character. Those scars, the XP, obviously building your character, learning more stuff, but then also ranking up.
And it's nice because there's always that element of like, okay, yeah, of course I want to rank up and things like that. But like, when there's an actual mechanic benefit to it, other than just saying, hey, you can throw this into your role-playing trunk and like, have it in your toolbox, which is great, don't get me wrong, but like, to actually have a little bit of like, it's not a huge deal, but like a little mechanical boost to make it more worthwhile is nice. It keeps it fresh in your mind, which is cool.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
all right. Why don't we get in? So hopefully in this episode we might get to a little bit of the campaign. But I think what I'd like to do first is let's talk to each of you and just kind of walk me through, the process of building your character, and the folks at home, if they're interested in building characters, and what you were thinking and what angles you were taking. And I think I'll start with Tim. Why don't we start with you? Kind of walk us through like your thought process and where you ended up.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of like we were talking about, I was inspired a little bit by the last character, Private Dan Gregg, but who had this little bit of a mechanical background. And so I really wanted to build off of that. But also I was thinking, how can that be a little bit more useful? Because it's rare that I've played an RPG of any kind where I'm surrounded by vehicles all the time. So you're trying to figure out like, okay, how do I make this actually like a thing? And especially like World War II style, there's not gonna be computers everywhere. So you can't be like, I work on their computer and I'm the hacker. So how do I make it also useful? And so I really am going for more like a saboteur kind of vibe. So it's someone who starts as an engineer and then in World War I actually was more like a saboteur and learned some skills and learn how to make a maybe what would be considered like a civilian skill into a more like wartime kind of skill. And so now he's having to get pulled back into the action, having to use it all over again. So yeah, it seemed like a good way to kind of blend the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. It's trying to get the age just right where he was in World War I, but also is young enough to still be in World War II effectively was fun, getting age workshopping. And then like when I shared it with the group, I forgot to change his year. So we had like, some fun times going on with that. But I think
fatal
he's
flaw with
37.
that
was math. Math was his fatal flaw.
It was, yeah. He shared it with people who knew how to do math.
I did the math right. I just forgot to change the year after I did all the calculations afterwards. So there you go.
Let you off.
At one point, Tim's character was a 55-year-old French Canadian.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
Is that it? Just that's his age and his nationality.
That was everything. That was the entire thing. Like,
but yeah, so I'm really looking forward to being able to blend the two of, again, having some engineer stuff, but also being, how can I use this engineer thing kind of not only offensively, but I know we mentioned this a little bit in previous casts, but that not everything is going to be quite as combat focused as that last run was. And so I feel like this character will be a good blend of being able to still do things in a useful manner that will still benefit the group, even if we're not just straight up fighting or something.
Yeah, that was one of the things the group asked me. I don't remember if we actually put this out on a podcast or if it was like a wrap up talk or something, but one of the questions was like, could you just give us an idea of what kind of stuff we're facing? And for me, even though this is like a pulp World War II thing, I really want to bring like the horror and like psychological into it. So that was kind of my directive that I gave them is you're going to fight some stuff, like that's inevitable, but like a lot of this is going to be psychological horror and like trying to figure out puzzles and track things down. So I'm really excited about that. And so that was the directive. And then the other thing is, for those of you at home, we're using the players could use the regular player handbook, but then also they have a Vive la Resistance book as well that comes with NPCs, but then also builds for the characters. So we let the cast here go ahead and use that book as well. So if you hear some mix and match, that's why we kind of
maybe that's before we move on. That's a great thing to point out too, which great for this system is it was so easily interchangeable. Where I'm gonna use the right term here. I took the archetype from the one book and then used the background from the main book, and like I was able to really mix and match, and it was super super easy, which I really appreciate because I've done similar things, and sometimes it's hard to not multi-class but like split across books, and I was very easily able to keep them all together. And I really appreciate that.
When we talk about the flexibility of the system, if you want a shoot 'em up campaign, if you want to do a little bit of World War II while also shooting monsters, there's definitely a thing you can do in this system. Like it has all the access for that. If you want the dark and gritty and the psychological horror, you can do that. If you want to do the mystery investigation piece of that, it's all possible. Like it's robust for not being that 500 pages to start.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to fleshing out a Canadian World War I veteran who's now I've just been in France ever since. It's been good times, and then maybe got pulled back to the stateside. So.
All right, Kegan, what about you? Are we gonna see the manifestation of the God of Thunder back in this one, or?
No.
It's worked so well last time for everyone.
Yeah, Norse-based characters and motivations are retired in a chateau in France. I think my number one inspiration for how I was going to create this character was eliminate a need for accents. I just wanted for any significant accents. So my surrounding cast here has much higher skill, natural skill towards that, and or willingness. So I'm gonna defer that to you all. I was when I first was looking at the rules. This is back before we started the last adventure. I was less attracted to the magic stuff than I thought. I was like, more at the basics, the fundamentals, maybe a little more of like the run and gun kind of characters that y'all were just talking about in that monster world. But the more I played Sven, the more I actually really it really grew on me, and I was really interested in it. So I wanted to have a character that was lightly in that, but I didn't want to go full into the like magical tradition sense. I wanted it to be a component of this person, but not like the defining thing. So so whenever I'd run RPGs, especially with people who were new to like the entire genre, I'd suggest for character creation, hey, think of a movie character or a book character that you like, and we can build around that archetype into the mechanics of it, and helps reduce the barrier to entry. And so, just to put it very simply, I was inspired by the idea of a character, Colin Firth's character in The Kingsman. This very proper gentleman who's also got a significant amount of skills. And I actually had an idea, like a intro definition of this character, like to introduce at the beginning of every episode we do, that I started with, and then I went from there. And so it's prim and proper, sometimes sour, but never dour gentleman scholar.
You really just wanted to put like the tongue test, like the tongue
it came to my mind, and I was like, you know what, that's it. And so we're gonna go with that. So I built out, and I enjoyed building out this character who had these non-combat skills, but also had read from an occult book, and so and Achtung, Cthulhu has the magical. They've got the tradition, they got the like ritualistic or something, but they've got the dabbler, which is the I kind of accidentally stumbled on magic, and now I can do magic, but I'm not like practiced in it. And so it's got some cool, like your base power level for magic is 1, but you could also have, and the other, like Sven had a power level of 2, so I rolled 2 d20s. This guy has a base power level of 1 as a dabbler, but I can in any interaction I can make my power level 3, but Jay gets threat for any effects I roll.
Oh God.
So. Well, and like because that's cool, because like we mentioned actually last cast, that magic in this system is so interesting and so different than magic and force or whatever in other kinds of settings. In that it's scary, it's dangerous, and it's not fully controllable all the time. It's fascinating, really.
So I won't give too much more away. My character's name is William Bill Sterling, and I'm looking forward to kind of exploring more about what his backstory contributes, and where his sense for and where his magical dabbling powers bring and contribute or don't. I will say, as a starting point, I did not put any violent and damage inducing spells onto this one,
like room clearing spells would just wipe out everyone in the room, and then like the entire city.
So, I'm recognizing where I am, how I'm showing up, what I sometimes do with power like that, and I want to learn my way back into earning that responsibility. So.
Perfect.
Thanks, Bill.
Good choice.
All right, Louisa, why don't we go with you? How was your experience building your character?
Do you know what? For someone who will never get her character right first time on her character sheet, it is a great shame of mine that whenever I built a character for 5e, Andrew always has to check it because I will always have missed something. Always.
Good thing Jay didn't look closely at any of our
It's
characters.
just proofreading. That's all. It's just proofreading. It's
I
okay.
actually don't care. No. Go on.
It's just like, oh, you don't seem to have any skills. No. So I actually found the process of building it really straightforward. I actually really enjoyed it, and I love that it says there was actually even a bit in the book that says at this point your skills should add up to exactly, was it 17, and then or your attribute should add up to 51 or something. And I was like, oh, they do. Oh my god, I've done it right first time. So yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect. I'm not gonna lie, so just it feels like I'm deviating. There is a point. So not too long ago I started kind of getting in and rewatching all the Star Wars films on Disney Plus. Mostly just to sit and rip the piss out of them, to be honest. Especially when you get to episodes 2 and 3. And then I decided that, I'm going to watch Indiana Jones after this because it feels really safe. I don't think I'd sat and watch them all in a really long time. And also Harrison Ford was an absolute fox, let's be honest. And I was like, I really love this like archaeology thing. So this was the route I wanted to go down my character.
Nice.
And in order to, and also because it's kind of set roughly around the same period, right? Nazis and archaeology, they go together. Like this. And also
except for Crystal Skull, there were no Nazis in Crystal Skull.
Oh, you're right, but we don't talk about anything after 3.
Nope. That movie didn't happen. Moving on. That's right.
Cate Blanchett has been in many fine films, never in Indiana Jones. So.
Yes. Yeah. And I kind of, because the way I've had to write it to fit her backstory, how I really wanted. So I started from where we were and I went all the way back to the beginning and built her up from birth almost. So because of that, to make it fit, she is probably quite young. I think I don't quite know what year you've picked to set this in. I'm hoping that it's more like early 40s, like later in the war.
I hope so, because otherwise I'm going to have to redo all that math again.
Well, all right, real quick. What year would you guys all prefer it be? Let's hear it.
I figured 1940.
40.
I was going to say 1941, 1942.
Yeah, 41 and 42. I mean, 42 puts us post-American involvement in the war, which for some of our characters.
Fair.
I'd assume 38, 39, like Europe is falling. Perhaps, already invaded Poland. So
that's what I was thinking. I think
France
that's
early
why I said
40.
Right. That's why I said 40, because it's still fresh on the rise of everything. And everything like that.
What year do we need to be, Louisa, for your character to have graduated?
I mean, if we could fudge her education if we make it a little earlier. So she's born in 1919. So she'll still be in 1991. She's a time traveler as well. I thought I'd forget to drop that there.
Keep it simple, yeah.
We almost had to make Tim's character a time traveler.
So we can sort of fudge. The idea was that the bit that happened that led to her joining Majestic finished when she graduated, but we can fudge that to make it during her final years of university. It's splitting hairs.
And honestly, as Americans, we don't understand how your university system works at all. So who knows? Maybe you're 17, maybe you're 35 when you graduate. We don't
you go to university at 18 generally and study for 3 to 4 years, depending on the level of your degree.
See, America, you have to get out the debt. So that's anywhere between 4 and 9 years. So
at what point do you have a party that gets you kicked out of school for a couple of years? Like
you're none, because we can drink at 18.
Yeah, they introduce alcohol in moderately responsible ways throughout the maturation process.
I'm going to invite you to come over to a university city on a night out and see how we moderately consume alcohol in British society.
So Tim, currently working in university discipline, will have a aneurysm.
That's right. No, I'm not on duty. It's fine. It's not my school, not my problem.
So that's fine. So she is quite young, but also because I like the idea that maybe this is almost like one of her first, if not her first assignment, that maybe she can also be the window for the viewers, so that when things like she's asking the questions because it's new to her, but then it can be new to people listening as well.
That's a good idea.
I like that.
Yeah.
Storytelling, guys. That's storytelling.
Yeah, and also I do
Someone thought about
apologize.
the viewers.
Yeah.
That's a really well reasoned and like moderate thing to do. Are you sure you want to be here?
Is it this
really well
podcast?
thought out.
Sorry, is this not
With
the
us?
fifth
No.
way?
I was just thinking you were saying like some British terms about the Star Wars shows, and I was like, I wonder for a Patreon, like I'll put this video and just put subtitles under you for like our American viewers. So that's how serious I'm taking this.
No. Well, I mean, my accent's not that bad, is it? Well, speaking of bad accents, I am going to put out a massive disclaimer and apologize to everybody in the Yorkshire community.
Oh no.
Yeah, because all of our viewers are going to really know the difference. Like, we're going to call you.
I
on
know.
that for
We have a
sure.
very significant British viewership, so
Yeah.
Well,
There you go, and we love them.
Yeah.
Wherever they're
Well,
from.
yeah. This is why I'm here to represent this tiny little island. But yeah, I do. Yeah, I was umming and ahhing about different accents because I'm really terrible with them, and I was like, I'm just gonna try the one that feels like it might be the easiest. And I
Perfect.
don't know. We'll find out, won't we? It's an abomination.
I won't know. So all right,
Yeah,
Ben.
no one here will call you on it, so you're
Yeah,
good.
Cool. Excellent.
I mean, we will, but we won't know what we're making fun of.
Exactly. You
Yeah,
have no idea
that's
what it's
true.
like.
That's true. Yeah, it's just like general making fun of.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Sorry,
like, could you repeat that in a normal accent? That would be
Right,
great.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
And at some point, one of us will pull the American, and everything will be a Cockney accent for about 30 seconds, and we won't know why. And then we're like, "What was that? Where's that from?" It's like,
Well, I'm still waiting for my Canadian to go into something else. Eh? Like,
it's gonna, so Midwestern mom is going to be like.
I almost was a Midwestern mom, but somehow it kept slipping into some other accent. It kept slipping into like a Mrs. Doubtfire kind of thing, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. And I was in the car practicing, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't. I was trying so hard. I just couldn't make it land.
If
I wanted
Princess
to be-
Elizabeth can work on cars in World War II, your character could have as well.
Listen, I had a great idea for a Midwestern mom character who was also an interrogator and would like beat people to death with rolling pins. I was so ready. I was so ready.
Wasn't there a movie in the 90s about like the mom serial killer or something like that?
I don't know. I would watch it for inspiration. It'd be great.
What? Sorry. So you had trouble nailing a Midwestern accent? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, because so in like not just Midwestern, but like a northern Midwestern, like what area am I thinking? Like
Wisconsin,
kind of thing.
Minnesota,
Wisconsin, Minnesota kind of accent. Because it's
north of
Australia.
Chicago.
Yeah, it kind of goes. It ebbs and flows a little bit
Oh,
as
okay.
language does. Like Ben, can
It's
tell you
like
about
it's like a wild mix between English, Canadian, American. It's just a wild.
it is. It's a really
incredibly
cool
polite,
accent.
but also biting at the same time.
Yeah.
Right, which would make a great
okay.
interrogator. Like imagine, like I'm gonna break your wrist now, eh? Like,
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the movie Fargo, imagine that
Yes.
accent.
Fargo.
So,
Maybe that's what I should. Next time, I'll just watch Fargo on repeat until
There you go.
I throw myself in a wood chipper.
That's
And the
probably
first
not
season.
healthy.
Iron and Tentacles, your Fifth Trooper accents podcast.
Listen,
Join us
accents
next
come
week
to
where we
die?
analyze Western Midwest.
Because there is a difference. There's a difference between a
I'm sure-
Minnesotan and an Ohioan. There is.
There is.
Yeah,
and
well, that's
Louisa will
Arizona's
contribute
accent.
with North London.
These four streets speak like this, but these four streets speak like this.
Arizona
joke.
doesn't
You
matter.
joke.
Does it
I know.
speak
I'm not really
differently?
joking. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but yeah, this is it. You could go to the next village in the UK and they will speak differently.
I'm pretty
I'm-
sure your husband and I had so for those of you who aren't Patreon members, we had a After Dark podcast, and Andy, Louisa's husband, was on it with me, and I'm pretty sure we had an entire episode about this, about accents, and then saying
It was horrendous.
yeah, and then I was like, oh yeah, he knew you wouldn't like
He
it.
tried to do a Geordie accent, and I literally was just like, it's like you've never watched Ant and Dec. It was horrendous. Yeah, sorry, that was a real
The
British
reference we all
reference.
get. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Let me channel
can't
my
believe
BBC
he
real
never
quick.
watched Outer Decks.
Yeah.
What was it? Under Deck?
Under Deck. I'm going to ask
Under-
ChatGPT.
Underway.
Hold on.
Below Decks. That's the reality show, right?
Below
About
Deck.
the sexy
that's
cruises.
that's the boat show. Ant and Deck are two presenters from Newcastle. They are like the staple of Saturday night prime
Ant
time.
and Deck, yeah.
And Anthony
I was
McPartland and
way
Declan
off.
Donnelly.
The ant is in a deck.
I was told to go watch a British show called Drop the Dead Donkey, and I was like, I can't just for the name alone. So I was like,
that is the throwback. That show is it's satire. It was broadcast before I used to kind of watch telly before I was old enough to sort of get it.
It was one of those names. I was like, how do you name a show that? It's like, it's British. It's fine. It's the 80s. They could do what they wanted.
Very
Ben, if I was still
biting
living in
satire.
living in Knoxville, I would watch it with you like cat style, like we did.
Exactly. Tim and I saw Cats, and it was the last film we saw before COVID. And we thought, is this the last film we ever see in the theater? Is this where the world ends?
Wow.
And this is what caused it. This is what caused it.
The world ended for you that day in
really
one
did.
way.
True. We were unfortunately sober.
I'm watching Jay's face and realizing that we're dangerously close to him having to actually do post-production editing of this episode. So maybe we should come back to Ben's inspiration for his character.
Ben, what's your character?
Yeah.
I've been trying so hard to turn it around, and it's just like, but I'm also gripped by the insanity of this conversation. So it's a real tough decision for me.
We all looked into the face of Cthulhu before we started recording, so that's
this year. It's just the madness.
Yeah,
it was just a mirror.
So I did try the random roll because I've had success in other RPGs where you let the random roll and it tells you the character to act into. And I kind of like that challenge. Like, this is a thing. This is where I'm limited. I tried a Star Wars Force caster. Like, all he wanted to do was to lift things up with his Force powers. And that was my entire goal as a character, because I was unsuccessful every time I tried it. And it ended in a beautiful triumph where I finally did it for all the right things. And it was heroic. It was great for storytelling. Until I re-rolled into another character just like Sarah. And I was like, I just played this character, and we just said this wasn't going to be a shooty piece. So I wanted to find something a little bit different. So I dropped back and I started thinking, all of those old OSS guys, they're all lawyers. They're all out of the Ivy League. And we had made this joke, but we'd all be Yaleys together or something like that. But they were all lawyers. I was like, okay, let's just start there. I'm a lawyer. And then I started looking, it's like, well, if you look, lawyers don't have a lot of things like in that book for the RPGing portion. You got to find that actual background. So I ended up going with a con man, because isn't that what all lawyers are? And, so
Nice.
and then I started playing with, okay, if we're going to be a lawyer, if I'm going to be a Yaley, or I'm going to be one of those, and I decided to go to New Haven, so I went to Yale. And for a little while, it was going to be a Gatsby piece. Like, I thought about me being Nick Carraway, because, that would put him just about 41, 42, 43 when all this stuff is happening. He went to the war, he came back, he saw all the sights and scenes, lived the life of the 20s, and then he's disillusioned and all that jazz in the 30s. I played around with that a little bit. I thought more of that mid-Atlantic accent, all those movies from the 50s and 40s, that's very much, that accent doesn't exist except in film. I don't know if that's because the recording.
George, what are you doing, George?
Exactly. Or it's a very rich upper crust style. So, okay. So I'm like, I'm going to be somewhere, let's say Philadelphia, that Midwestern, educated, I've been to parties with several of the Bushes, those kind of pieces.
Do you know Royer Gilmore's like great grandfather?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It stars Hollow
There you go.
Point. It's like
Exactly. Thank you. Stars Hollow Point.
Listen, I've watched those shows, sir. I watch those shows.
Don't get me started.
So I was like, okay, that's where I'm headed into. But then to make it fit inside the RPG land, it led to some interesting places. Like, finding your archetype is one thing, and then finding that background piece. I said, okay, so if I was young enough to go to World War I, which as an American, we were there for a year, things happened, people died, but also the American involvement was relatively short. And so in Gatsby, they talk a lot about how those characters went for the great fun, had time in Europe, and then came back home and went to college or finished college. So in my mind is where I was kind of starting. And the 20s were awesome because I had money. But then what happens in 29? The economic crash, do my people still have money? I was like, okay, well, maybe not. And there's this great bit of storytelling in the 20s. And that's when you start getting the Hemingway stuff. Like, you get these British former royalty, like underclass royalty aristocrats who have no money. And they come to New York where all the money went after World War I, and right there at World War II, looking for the life there. What if I was a guy who had American money but had gone missing in the 30s because of the Depression, and I went to Europe, and that's when all the fascism starts up. It's like I go to Italy and I'm doing things, but I really don't like Mussolini. So then I end up going to Germany, and man, I don't like those brown shirts. And then I end up going to Spain, And then I'm there during the Spanish, the Spanish Civil War. And so I ended up becoming an anti-fascist lawyer who, got into mythos in some ways in our backstory that will reveal. But so my guy's a little bit older. He's I say closer to my own real life age. So he was about 44, 45 when I put this together. I am 42 personally, just had a birthday. So my character's in that spot there. So yeah, old, so old. My beard is growing white before you. Actually, it is. That's what was my design. I'm a lawyer. I'm one of those guys who's in the OSS who just had skill sets and things, but mechanically, it's very much a con man situation. You talk, you negotiate, you have knowledge and things. And then I was using my knowledge for some anti-fascist purposes during the Spanish Civil War.
Nice. All right. I like this. I like all of this. So we took some time here to introduce the characters. So before we get into our thing here, what I'd like to do is we'll do a little, I think this is going to help kind of introduce your characters. So what I'm going to say is basically you all were in Europe. Most of you, I think Louisa, Ben, and Tim, you were all in France or thereabout in your stories. And Kegan, I'm going to say Bill was maybe he had some business or something going on over in Europe. If you want to have another reason, that's fine. But for whatever reason, you find yourself in France as well. And you're given
what year are we in?
1940.
40. Okay.
Okay. So this is going to be around 1940. You can come up with a reason for yourself to be in France. And the rest of you have your reasons to be in France. We're going to say this is around, I'm going to put it in April 1940. Okay. You all have been contacted in one way or another by either Majestic or Section M, whether you've been working for them for a while or this is their first contact. But basically, you've all been instructed to be on a plane heading towards the States. You're going to end up in Chicago, where there's a Majestic training facility as they want to get you up to speed on some of the current events happening in the Secret War. So we're going to put ourselves on a plane on the way to Chicago. And what I'm going to say is you all are kind of sitting next to each other. This military plane, right? So it's a cargo plane, so the seats are mostly along the side. There's a bunch of cargo. You're heading from Europe into the States to Chicago. And what I'd like you to do is maybe start with the four of you. Some other soldiers are walking around, but the four of you are basically sitting next to each other. And yeah, I'd like to maybe have you guys introduce yourselves in character and kind of, talk about what you look like. I know we did a little bit of your backgrounds, but let's just do a physical description and then maybe start talking, doing a little role playing here. And I'll let whoever thinks that their character would begin the conversation.
So I reach out into my pocket and my dress jacket there, pull out business cards, hand them out to everybody because I'm the kind of guy that has some business cards.
Excellent.
Winfield Salter here. Nice to meet you all. I guess we're all headed back to the States.
Oh yeah, you say back to the States, but I've not been over there in a long time, eh? I couldn't tell you the last time I went to, where are we going? Chicago. I don't think I've been to Chicago in a long time, eh?
Oh, I don't think I've ever been to Chicago. I've never really been to America, to be honest. I've been lots of places, but not America. Is it as big as they say?
Well, we were running about, 2 days by train to get to New York from there to really do it right and do it well. Of course, we had a private car back in the 20s when we were taking our trips out that way. But, public transportation now, we're flying in. It'll be quite nice.
Oh, a private car. That's better than I could afford.
Well,
fancy people.
It was before the crash, We all had money back then, didn't we?
No, not necessarily. But
yeah. Speak for yourself.
Mr. Salter, it's nice to meet you. I'm Charlie Mitchell.
Hiya, Charlie. I'm Betty.
Hello, Betty.
And Mr. Salter, and she'll reach over and shake his hand.
I shake her hand. I look her firmly in the eye because I'm a man of class and style.
Bill immediately shoots his friends.
Bill Sterling has been sitting quietly, back straight and upright in the uncomfortable military aircraft seat, listening to this. He takes the card, and then once everyone is introduced, he says, "William Sterling, but y'all you can call me Bill. Nice to meet y'all. On our way to Majestic. What sort of business were you in there that had the private train car, Mr. Salter?"
Well, the law is a very profitable piece there. So, finances, the things you do.
And how did
I don't know what things you do, but that's fine for you. That's good.
Well, you see, coming out of Philadelphia and coming out of New York, a lot of the law is he's making sure the business deals work. We manufacturing, publishing, those kind of pieces, trademarks and patents, and really is making sure everyone holds true to the same contract. The law is a very, very lucrative piece.
Sounds like your hands are a bit soft there, but I hear what you're saying. Okay.
How did that get you associated with Majestic like us?
Well, after the crash, it wasn't quite as lucrative. I had a lot of money tied up in stocks and bonds, and the family fortune pieces. So, I found myself over in Europe. I was there. Italy was a fantastic place until that son of a bitch Mussolini showed up and decided to get out of there. And international business requires lots of lawyers, lots of people who know people, and so I'm a people person. You look at Winfield Salter here. He is a man in a wool suit. It's three-piece, vest, the pants line, grayish, but just fashionable enough. It's not quite shabby, but it's definitely not necessarily new either. It's well cut.
Wool.
It's tactical wool. Exactly.
Yes. Tactical wool suit. Absolutely.
He's very much a Cary Grant type of figure. The black hair. Not just a little bit, not quite slick back, but well coiffed and all that.
And Bill sitting in his own three-piece suit, navy though, admires this and compliments Mr. Sadler's suit to him, just to make sure that he knows he appreciates it.
So as I think if we were in a movie, we're watching all your characters kind of introduce themselves, and the camera pans out as you guys are talking, and out the window and above the plane, and maybe to like an Indiana Jones style map as the plane is flying into, maybe it stopped in New York and then and to fuel up or whatever, switch planes, and then into Chicago. And then we fade in, and it says maybe 2 months later. So now we're into what did I say, April? So now it's June. I was like, what month did I say? Because I'm trying to get you to a very specific month. So then we're in June, and maybe we fade back in, and we see like maybe there's a montage of you guys all together, like studying, going through like a lot of the training. I would say that you guys are going through isn't so much military or fight. It's more like learning about the secret war and understanding like what you could be facing.
The devil is real and you should be afraid.
Yeah. And maybe there's some military training, but most of it's on the occult or the mythos. And then I'd like to come back up into maybe like a bunkhouse, and that's some interesting music. Yeah, all right, I'll go with it. So maybe there's a bunkhouse, and I would say it's not like a typical like military bunkhouse, but maybe like a cabin, and there's rooms for all of you, and you're in the living room, and you were told today that in a few weeks you'd be getting some R&R, some relaxing, and you actually have tickets to the All-American Girls Baseball League game. It's going to be on the 4th of July, and it's going to be the Rockford Peaches, their hometown in Illinois, in Rockford, Illinois. And you heard that President Roosevelt is going to be in attendance as well, and the agency guys got you guys tickets. So we zoom back, fade in, and you guys are inside, maybe like a common area inside the cabin.
Okay, well, that's fine. So
is that fine?
Yes, that's fine. Did these tickets like just get delivered to us, basically?
Yeah, I think your commanding officer at Majestic basically told you, like, oh, hey, we're doing something nice for you guys. I know a few of you aren't American, and so we'd like to treat you to the closest thing as we can to American baseball that's going on right now, and that's the women's league.
So I'd be smoking a cigarette, probably, just wearing jeans and like just a slightly tattered, probably a plaid shirt or something like that. Unless we're in a uniform, in which case I'll be in uniform. Hey, whatever. Yeah, whatever we're mandated.
No, it's cash. Cash. You're all cash right now.
I realized that as you said, we were in a barracks, so maybe we're in a uniform. But anyway, so
Bill is casually wearing his charcoal 3-piece suit with the pocket square.
That's right. That's right. So I would like take a drag of the cigarette and just be like, I don't know about you all, but I don't think this is just a baseball game. I feel like in our time here, nothing has led me to believe that they would give us just some R&R for no reason.
Well, we have been working quite hard, though. There's no reason why we can't go. I mean, I don't really know what baseball is. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. And only when you guys listen to it on the wireless.
I haven't seen a baseball game in years, not since I left the States myself. I'm dressed, by the way, in a nice button-down shirt, but the collar is loose, but of course there's a tie because I'm a gentleman. Man, I'm just thinking about the Cracker Jacks. It's been quite some time since I've had some Cracker Jacks.
What's a Cracker Jack?
We see his popcorn and his caramel sauce, and there's peanuts involved, and they mix it it's a fine confection.
Oh, I might have to try some of that.
But you're missing the point here. Is what I'm saying is that the president is going to be there, and
maybe the president just likes baseball too. They do like women's sports, and maybe he's quite a nice bloke.
Maybe so. I hear he's a very upstanding gentleman, but still, I just hesitate to take things at face value after all these years. It's I don't know. It's just a bit suspicious to me.
Well, and she'll reach over, she'll take the tickets out of his hand, and she'll say, "Well, I've not got long, so maybe I'm going to go off and go and do some in the air, so I don't look like I've been stuck in this bloody bunker for God knows how long." And then she's going to wander off to go and get changed and put on a dress for a change.
I went to a party on the Roosevelt's estate there on Long Island. It was really quite nice. This was before he was governor, of course.
You can't trust them Long Islanders, eh?
Shifty Long Islanders.
Bill looks between the both of you, having learned a bit about your characters as we've been working and studying together, and looks and says, "There's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self, gentlemen." And stands up and goes to dust off and grab a bite at the canteen.
I tell you what, when you got mud on your face, mud and blood all over your face, and you're covered in the blood of your enemies, you feel pretty superior to someone.
Now, come on, Charlie. It's all about the cause. We've all been there. We do it differently. We all have our own ways. We're still fighting the same fight.
I fight to stay alive, eh?
All right, so we fade out. We fade to black, and we fade back in. And Ben, your character is sitting behind the Phillies dugout at the 1928 Open game for the Philadelphia Phillies. And you're sitting with some of your friends. Let me stop this stupid music. I know that's probably annoying me more than it is you or anyone else, or the listeners. I'm just like hearing that music going. And anyway, so your family is really interested in the Phillies because the owner of the Phillies asked you guys to finance their recent acquisition, Chuck Klein. And for you guys were paying $7,500 to get old Chuck onto the squad. So he plays right field, number 62. So opening day, you're next to your friends, and maybe one of your friends from, what was it? I think would it be Lehman? You said.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lehman
So
Brothers.
maybe let's call him Robert. He also is Robert Esquire the third. Let's. And so anyways, he goes, boy, these Phillies this year, I think they're going to be really good.
I really like them. I really do. We've been talking. You still look at the right fielder out there. Look at how she's throwing that ball around. I tell you, Robbie, it's going to be a fantastic season for us. We'll really make something out of this team. Just
So
about knowing the right people to put in the right spot.
What would your friends call you? Like if they were really close, what's the nickname that you would go by?
They'd call me Winnie.
Winnie, okay.
They would call me
Winnie. I know that tone. I'm guessing maybe you have a little financial interests in an old 62 out there.
Listen, Robbie, are you going to tell me you don't have a financial interest in this team somewhere? Come on. We know how this game is played.
Take a look at second base. Old Fresco Thompson there. He may be one of ours.
Oh, nice. Nicely done. I flipped through my program book. Look at some stats and data. All right. I can see it. I can see it, Robbie. Tell me, what are you thinking you're going to get out of this?
Well, what does anybody? Brand awareness, my friend. And as we fade out, we see that the Phillies played 152 games and only won 43 that year. So, yeah.
I'm just
so
imagining
anyways,
the other three of us are just sitting like in a line eating Cracker Jacks. Like
yeah.
we've never had it before. Like this is great.
No, this was in the past. That was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
1928. This is 14. All right. So anyways, we're going to fade out there, and that'll end today's session. And next week, when you join us, the cast here will be heading to Byers Stadium in Rockford, Illinois, to attend a Peaches game. So I'm very excited about this.
Peaches, and you will get to find out if we actually get to try Cracker Jacks, or if we are robbed of our opportunity to indulge in this rich person food.
That's correct.
Yes, the height of Chicago deli.
That is the tension. I know all of our listeners are.
That's right.
Surely was Portillo's around in the 30s? Surely Portillo's.
That's a great question. We'll have to look that up. Yeah,
look that up off air.
Chicago hot dog, nothing like it in the world. I'll tell you that much. But
all right. Peanuts and Cracker Jacks and Cthulhu.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and join us next week.